Hi, my name is Tobin, and this is my story. I'm very lucky to be married to my wife, Alex, and I have three beautiful kids, Nate, Millie, and Zali. And in my spare time, I like to be an assistant principal. And so with the teacher genes in me, I've got some cue cards, so don't mind me. So I'm a very organised, structured, self-motivated person, but these are actually weapons that I use to fight the battle that's going on inside my head. It's a battle I've been fighting my entire adult life, and hopefully today I can explain that to you in a way that might help you. So something that I find really important and I'm very passionate about is parenting. As someone that works in the education field, I see the importance that parents have on their kids, and I see the impact that an upbringing can have on a child, and so I place an incredible amount of pressure on myself to do that really well for my own kids. I guess this pressure all started back when I was a lot younger. So when I grew up in a family with 5 kids, family of 7. It was a great family, loved it. We used to live in Geelong, but something happened when we lived in Geelong that really changed the course of my life and my family's life. So at the age of 13, my sister Erin was coming home from school one day, and a group of men stole her innocence. She didn't tell our family for quite a while, and so we didn't really know what was wrong with Erin, but there were some significant changes to the way she acted. This placed a lot of pressure on my family, and it was clear that there was something very wrong. Erin was amazing to me. My 2 little brothers got along really well. Erin and my sister Laura got along really well, but for me, Erin was my idol. I loved her. One night, when Erin was 17, she was out at a meeting. She had lots of caretakers and people wraparound services that supported Erin because she just was in a really troubled place. Our family friend Gail came over to look after my 2 brothers and my sister and I, because my mum and dad were at a meeting with Erin and her, the people she was working with. And it seemed like something was odd, something was wrong this night. And we're up very late, my mum and dad still weren't home, and I later found out that at that meeting that night, Erin was very upset and very rattled, and she ran away from the meeting. Well, we got a phone call late that night. I was 11 at the time, in year 6. We were up, I can't remember what time, it was like 9:30 or so. And we got a phone call, and Gail gathered me and my brothers and sister, and we just all hugged each other, and she let us know that Erin had taken her life. So death is such a final thing, such a hard thing to comprehend, and as I was entering my teen years, it was a really tough thing to take with me. This had a huge impact on our family. I remember my birthday in like year 7 or year 8, and we're all so preoccupied and worn out by this. My dad gave me a $20 note. My sister Laura gave me $10. She must have had from pocket money or something, and that was the birthday. One of my first seasons of basketball, I started basketball in year 6 or year 7, and I remember Mum came along and she just stared at the ground the whole time. She was basically a vegetable at that point. She just couldn't function in life, and she was crippled by depression. I carried a lot of that angst into my teen years, and it was really hard to pretend to be a normal person when I was dealing with that pain in my head. I got really obsessed with some things like hip-hop culture and basketball, and that started to shift my mind, but I still couldn't shake it. I finally turned things around, and by the end of VC, I had some really supportive teachers at school that believed in me. I met a nice girl, and she had a lovely family that made me feel like things were normal, and I started to feel like things were on track, and I was finally taking control of the pain in my head. So one night, I'd been out in the city with my girlfriend and her family, and the next morning my dad came to pick me up from her house. I wasn't able to drive, or I didn't have my car there for whatever reason. I was about 20 at the time, and we're driving home, and it was a pretty quiet drive home, and my dad said to me, "Oh, your bed's real comfy." I thought, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Oh, I slept in your bed last night. Your mum's not too happy with me." And it all started to fall in place. The last 2 weeks I'd been working at Chicken A Go Go, a great place. And my dad had called me 2 Tuesdays in a row and he said, I'm not going to be able to come home tonight. I'm helping a friend move. And I thought it was really odd. And so I just said to Dad, is that what the last 2 Tuesday nights have been about? And he said, yes. So I didn't say anything for the rest of the car ride home. I just stared out the window, just going through things in my head. As soon as we pulled up into my driveway, hopped out of the car, sprinted up to my friend's house, banged on his door. Luckily, my mate Rosa Mackie opened the door and I just ran to his bed and started bawling my eyes out. After that, it became really confusing in my life because my dad and mum were now no longer together. They were against each other, or my dad was seemingly acting against my mum, and I couldn't understand it. He kept inviting me and my brothers to his house, and I refused to go. And the hard part was the person he was seeing was actually the counsellor that he finally started to see to deal with his pain with the loss of Erin that my mum had been asking him to do for quite a while. So it was just, everything felt wrong to me. I had to tell my mum one of my favourite hip-hop lines from Jay-Z, and he said, don't argue with a fool because people from a distance can't tell who is who. And whatever my dad was saying, my mum was getting so upset I had to help her and just say, just leave it, let it go. After a while, it seemed that Dad had perhaps changed his tune, or he'd started to realise the fault in his ways, and Mum had actually been saying, from my memory, that things were getting better. So one night I came home from Chicken A Go-Go, just another normal Tuesday or Wednesday night. I was about to jump on the computer and look up some Tupac lyrics or something like that. I was about 20 at the time. And Mum was on the phone and she came out and she told me, your father has killed himself. So, I jumped in my car. I didn't want to let my brothers or my mum see me crying. I jumped in my car, sped over to my friend Easy's house, just walked straight in, broke down, started crying. His family came around me, and then some of my other basketball mates came and joined me that night, and even one of Erin's best friends, Jackie, we got in contact with, and she came and joined me that night, and my world was just blown up from that point. Unfortunately, I'd not been talking to my dad at that point because I was really angry at him for what he'd done to my mum. So it's like this unresolved fight that I can never resolve. So life after the death of my sister and my dad was really, really hard. My whole adult life, I've worried that like suicide is like something that, it's a sickness, and is that how I'm going to end my life? Is that how my siblings are going to end their life? It's something very hard to comprehend. It's like a tornado just went right through our family, and where do you start? So I guess the part that's really caused grief for me now is the inescapable pain. So anyone who's dealt with some challenges or loss in their life would understand that it's very hard to forget those moments. I've had like a movie on repeat in my head. So I've seen what happened to my sister over and over. I've seen the way she's ended her life over and over. But the weird thing is, I didn't actually see those events take place. But in my mind, I've pieced it all together. I've had restless nights. It can last for a few nights in a row. It can last for a week. All throughout my entire life, where I go to bed and I know, the whole night's going to be filled with this. And it's like something that I can see coming, but it was very hard to know how to stop. My sister Erin was 17 when she died, and to this day she's still 17 in my mind. So when I work in school or I work as a basketball coach and I deal with young people, sorry, I can't talk properly, I see my sister in all those people. I remember I was at a work PD, so it's a professional development with my boss and I and lots of other assistant principals, and someone mentioned Corio West Primary School, and that was the school I attended when we lived in Geelong, when Erin was attacked. And so for the rest of that day, while they're all talking educational jargon and all this stuff about schools, all I could think about in my head was, the pain and the loss. I've become, in my life, I guess, extra emotionally aware and sensitive, and I could sometimes watch movies that aren't even really serious, and I would find something in the movie so sad, and I would just connect to it and cry. I've spent a whole lifetime as a parent worrying about how my children will see me, because I know the way I think about my dad is something I can never forget. I always think about it. So this pain has then impacted my actions a lot in my life, and it took meeting my wife, my wonderful wife, to help me see that. She's never afraid to tell me what she's thinking. That's why I love her. But I have led a life of fear, because in my life, bad things happen. When people go, they don't always come back. So I've lived in financial fear, always wanting to have enough for my children. I've lived in a fear of safety. I remember as a teenager, we all used to go to my friend Tim's house and play basketball, and they'd put out this log and everyone would run up and jump off the log and dunk it. And I was so scared I'd run up to the log and I'd just stop, because I would just see something bad's going to happen. I put a lot of pressure on myself as a parent because, again, I see the importance of what I do is going to have a big impact on my kids. And so I strive to do that perfectly, but I know I can't. It's a fight I can't win. And I have a fear of happiness being lost. So even when I'm enjoying good moments in my life, I've spent a lot of time worrying, when is this going to end? So I guess there was a time in my life, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, where that started to change, and there have been a few other events in my life that have changed that. One thing I remember really clearly was I was sitting in a meeting talking about trauma and children at school, and the person said, people's actions are directly linked to the trauma they've been involved in their life. And I never really viewed myself as a victim of trauma, because I've always thought that trauma was for my sister and my dad and not for me. But it lifted a great weight that some of my actions and the way I thought is actually for a reason. And so I've started to learn to control these mental health issues and these battles. I was saying to someone the other day, when those dreams start to come in at nighttime, it's kind of like a tap, tap, tap on my shoulder, and I know those bad thoughts and that restless night just wants to win over my head, and it keeps tap, tap, tapping on my shoulder, and I just have to ignore it. And then it starts yanking on my shirt, and I have to ignore it. And I know if I turn and look and start to let those movies play in my head, it's going to be a really hard time for me. I guess similar to how maybe an alcoholic might feel. If they take one sip, they're going to want to keep drinking. And so something I've used a lot is there's this one Bible verse. I'm not the world's greatest Christian. I don't know all the quotes and verses, and I don't know all the songs, but all who are tired and weary, come to me and I'll give you rest. That's been something I've lived over and over in my head, say the last 4 or 5 years, because when my head starts to fill with the bad thoughts, I have to learn, and I've learned, it's been really helpful to just not keep those problems with me and let them go. I've learned also to really, really value my work-life balance and the time I put in with my family versus the time I put into other things. It's been something that's helped me fill my head up with happiness when these other thoughts come in. And it's not that work is a bad place, but work can get you busy and stressed. And when I get tired and vulnerable, that's when these thoughts start to come into my head. So I value just mucking around with my kids. I value watching basketball. I value just hanging out with my wife. I love those things because that's helped me push these other thoughts aside. I think the other important thing that's happening in my life is I've learnt to tip the scales. I feel like life has failed me at times, or the things that have happened in my life have failed me at times. So I found it really important to give to other people and to spend my time dedicating to other people. I've spent time over in Africa, which helped me see that my life isn't always that bad, and a lot of people do things really tough. I spent a lot of time working for some vulnerable children and vulnerable families in Dandenong and Casey, and that helped me again fill my head with other thoughts and other people. I've really just absolutely loved being a parent, and putting my focus into my kids has just been a dream come true, and again has helped me see that the bad actions that have happened in my life don't need to be the end sum of my life, and I can create some new memories for my head. And I think also as a Christian, I found it really important that When I'm feeling down, I can pray for other people. There's people all around me, especially in our current climate of the world. There are people doing it tough everywhere. And I guess when I go to sleep, if I'm going to sleep thinking about other people and the dreams and desires I have for those people, it helps keep those other thoughts out of the way. So I think the other bonus or positive, if I can say that, about the life I've lived so far is that it's taught me how to handle adversity. As I said, I work at a school and I deal with a lot of people and a lot of families, and they're all going through tough things too. And so this has helped me become very emotionally intelligent, I think, and having an understanding and a passion to help other people. And it's from those hard times that I've been able to come out and see the importance of dealing with people for who they are. So I think I view life now as a complicated thing, but I do know life is what you make it. It's not what just happened. I have a lot of gratitude for the great things I do have. I'm not focusing anymore on the family I don't have with me anymore, but I'm really trying to focus on the family I do have. And I think it's important that I lead by example by doing that. I think I've learnt to value people, and I think that we should all value each and every person we come in contact with, regardless of their backgrounds or beliefs, because everyone has their battles. And I think lastly, and again in this current climate, it's so important, we just support each other. You don't know what the next person's going through, and that's something I've learnt firsthand. And I think just having the hope and love of God in my life has helped me come to those terms and feel that I can just accept the life I've been given and be proud of what I've made from it. So that is my story.